If you're looking for a theology of Earth Day, you don't need to look any further than the very first chapter of the Bible or some good old 1990s cartoons. Let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Jim. I'm a real-life pastor and an amateur runner, and it's Earth Day today. Hooray! At least the day this video is being published, it is. And I want to think about Earth Day from not just a moral, ethical point of view, because you should, but I want to think about it from a theological point of view, because that's kind of what I do for a living. So we're going to start with cartoons in the 1990s, because that's where all good theology begins. At least this one does. Do you know what I'm talking about? Any guesses? Any guesses? It's this one.
Captain Planet, he's our hero, gonna take pollution down to zero.
That's right, Captain Planet. Now, this was probably one of the first times as an 8-year-old that I was confronted with the realities of caring for the earth. I mean, up until this point, I was just into Ninja Turtles and Hot Wheels cars, I guess. But suddenly now, here's a show that's all about a group of kids coming together to do what they can to make an impact now and for the next generation. I mean, what a great cartoon. Why did it only last for 3 years? And what's so theological about that? Well, maybe nothing, but maybe everything, because there's also a character in the show named Gaia, Mother Earth. And it was one of the first times I remember realizing that there is a spirituality embedded in environmental care and justice. All that from a 1990s cartoon show. Not bad.
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
And more than that, it's a show about these 5 kids from 5 different continents who come together to make this big project of saving the world environmentally happen. And maybe they weren't explicit with this, but it was definitely an implicit message in the show that working together across our cultural and national and ethnic differences is how we will accomplish this. That's definitely theological. I mean, come on. Read the story of Pentecost in Acts 2. There's a whole line about running this race with a great cloud of witnesses. It's all about coming together as community to do this seemingly impossible project. But when we're together, it's a little more possible.
The power is yours.
And for a more overt theological understanding of Earth Day, we just turn to the very first chapter of the Bible. Genesis 1. Maybe you've heard of that one. It starts in the beginning. Yeah, that's kind of an important one. Yeah, that's kind of a popular one. This first chapter of the Bible is a poem telling us about how everything came to be. And it begins in the beginning, and then it ends with God making people. 2 of them, in fact. And then God tells them that you will subdue the earth and have dominion over it. And this is where some people of faith, a lot of Christians in particular, take that verse and think it means we can do whatever the hell we want with this earth because we are supposed to subdue it and have dominion over it. Well, guess what? Subdue and dominion don't mean do whatever you want to it. It doesn't mean exploit the earth for your own corporate and financial greed and gain while letting this whole thing just burn up and go to hell. The Hebrew word for subdue is kabash, kind of a fun word, kabash. But it doesn't mean kabash. It means to care for and to bring the natural resources to life. And then there's the word for dominion, and that's radah, which means to rule over, which is where a lot of people get to this, like, I'm going to rule over, I can do whatever I want. But the idea here was of a benevolent king, a king who cares for the land that he has in front of him. Really, this whole Genesis 1 chapter is filled with metaphors about kings, the whole made in God's image. A king would put images of the king at the borders of its territory to let everyone know this is my area, this reflects my image. So people being made in the image of God, it's another one of those metaphors. It came out of a culture where that was the water they were swimming in. But back to subdue and dominion. So to kabash and radah this earth does not mean that you get to just smash and turn it into whatever you want it to be, making it into your image for your own bottom line so you can become a trillionaire. No! Oh, it got really windy there. No, it means that you cultivate and care for this garden, because that's how this poem begins in Genesis 1 and the story in Genesis 2. It's a garden. And in a garden, you have to actually weed the weeds, and you have to water the soil, and you have to help the little vines get onto the trellis. It involves kabash and radah, dominion, subdue, care for this good earth. That's a theology of Earth Day. One more thing. When I was in college, I went to a church called Mars Hill in Grand Rapids. Fantastic place. Still have a lot of good friends from there. Incredible memories from there. But I remember one sermon series led by Matt Crick. Matt, if you watch this, shout out to you. And it was called Love Your Mother. It was called God is Green. It was called God is Green. But we had a whole Love Your Mother joke going on too, because Come on, God is green, love your mother. Do you get it? Do you get the theology? Okay, well, I remember one sermon that Matt gave, and he talked about the new seatbelt. And he started by talking about back when seatbelts were first required in vehicles, because there's a lot of time when people were doing their thing in cars and seatbelts, A, didn't exist, and B, were not required. But now we all kind of recognize seatbelts are kind of an obvious necessity for the safety of everybody. It ensures the well-being of all the humans, right? Well, his whole idea was that environmental care and justice is going to be the new seatbelt. This was 20 years ago. I wish that Matt's prophetic words had come to fruition a little bit sooner. Some of us are here in the call, but there's definitely, I still think, the need for bringing that future into the present of this new seatbelt. When caring for the earth, not just a simple act of recycling, but actual intentional ecological conversion, as Pope John Paul and Pope Francis would call it, becomes a part of who we are as individuals and as a society. Just as much as seatbelts seem obvious now, I look forward to a day when taking care of this earth and getting rid of all of these things that are literally killing it, not to mention data centers and drilling for oil and coal and so many things that are literally killing this planet we all call home. I look forward to the day when we just recognize what it means to wear a seatbelt, what it means to care for one another and this whole beautiful place that we get to call home. Let's end by looking at some pictures of this beautiful home. Thanks, Artemis. These pictures, this is a Theology of Earth Day. Here you go.